Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Karen Henry. I'm the National PR Representative for Afanapolio, and I have the opportunity today to introduce you to an amazing woman, Helene Bisson. I'm going to just take a little minute this morning to share Helene's background and her area of expertise that she brings to the table. She's been a fabulous mentor to me in the last 8 years that we've worked together. So it makes me very proud to introduce her properly. So after a prosperous career in law, Helene embraced a new career in the field of orthopedic bracing. In 2001, she became the owner of a major Canadian custom-made orthopedic shoe and brace clinic, Afanapolio, for which now she's the head of operations along with her brother Mark all across Canada. She's been trained as an orthotist prostheticist and graduated from the Mercy College, where she specialized in the lower limb and more specifically for the foot and ankle. Helene is the past president of Quebec Association of Orthotists and Prostheticists and a speaker at many colleges and universities. And now Helene travels throughout Canada to train professionals in the art and skill of molding and measuring one's foot in order to provide their clients with the experience of mobility, comfort, and fit of Afanapolio's custom-made orthopedic footwear. So welcome, Helene. Thank you for joining me today. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. Okay, Helene, I'm sure there's a few questions on people's minds. Can you briefly explain for us what custom-made footwear actually is and who can benefit from it?
Well, custom-made footwear is a footwear that actually does not exist before someone orders it. It's something that is made totally from scratch, from the mold and measurements of someone's foot. And I say foot in singular because we need to measure each foot to make a pattern for each foot. So it's something that is really in view of answering a need that someone cannot fulfill with regular footwear, even modified.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Helene, in your opinion, how has custom-made orthopedic footwear changed over the years among the general public and our practitioners' view?
Well, Karen, when I began 20 years ago in this field of expertise, custom-made footwear were bulky, black, heavy, and actually someone who had to wear them found many ways to have long pants to cover them all, because they were quite, I would say, basic looking. They were also complicated to order. Someone who was ordering a custom-made footwear needed to know as much as the one making them. What type of shoe, what type of soles, what type of inserts, what type of orthotics that needs to go in there. So it was rather complicated and very lengthy because most of the time it was one person in a company that was going to make the shoe. So it could take 5-6 months. And the fact that the shoe did not fit right at the first time, most of the time, brought a very lengthy delay for someone to get a custom-made footwear. Over the years, what happened is that the industry, and I say industry with some kind of a reserve, I would say the craftsmanship evolved into considering that anyone who was wearing a custom-made footwear wanted to look like everybody else. Of course,
Right.
the foot is what is the guided of the end result. But today we can work with colors, different type of leather. We can add style. We can look modern. So someone who's wearing a custom-made footwear will not have to be so ashamed of how the look of his feet comes out in a crowd. And for the practitioners, the industry or the craftsmanship that developed understood that that was not the main part of their business. Providing the shoe to someone who needs it was a major concern for those practitioners, but how to order it was something that needed to be simplified. So over the years, Afanapolio did everything that they could to make it simple and to get a first fit upon delivery as much as possible. And I would say, without tooting our horn, that we do it very well.
Excellent. So, Helene, for individuals with problem feet, what are the key factors to consider on the decision to have custom-made footwear done?
Well, I guess, Karen, that the right answer would be when everything else fails. When you've been walking around trying to find a pair of footwear, not only that fits, but that you fit in, and that you fit in that will allow you to spend your day doing your daily activity without having to wonder when you can take off your shoes, or when you're at the point where you buy a custom an off-the-shelf footwear, but there's so many modifications that need to be made on it that after those modifications are done, you don't even recognize the shoe anymore. That would be time for you to consider going for custom-made footwear. Of
Okay.
course, the one reason that you must avoid selecting footwear, if the only reason you want to select it is because your insurance pays for them, you probably would be deceived into the point that the custom-made footwear, albeit very nice, very snappy nowadays, and very modern, will never reach the refinement of a off-the-shelf footwear. So it's a question of you to decide that you either able to walk with a custom-made footwear that is fitting right, or to make a compromise and be with off-the-shelf footwear that are either deformed by the so many modification that you need to make on them, or to suffer during the whole day.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, Helen, how does a practitioner, they've got this patient, they're sitting there. When do they know that it's time to really recommend custom-made orthopedic footwear?
Well, the first thing that a practitioner will try to do usually is to offer the services that is more accessible in the first place. For example, the orthotics, AFO, modifying a shoe, so that the person can stay within a reasonable limit of budget and time to have a footwear. But when all of this fails, or is it not sufficient, or is to be done and done and done again because it's just not enough at each time, or the person walks in with a pair of slippers because nothing else fits, or a person stays home, never goes out because she can't buy a footwear or boots or whatever. I think it's time for the practitioner to offer to his or her patient the possibility of getting a custom-made footwear. We have patients, by the way, who will have custom-made footwear for certain types of activities and not for others. So a practitioner must not exclude the large selection of solutions offered to one of his or her patient, but to add that custom-made footwear opportunity so that the patient can have as regular life as anyone.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Helen, can you share some ways that custom-made footwear can improve the quality of people's lives?
Well, I guess the main qualification that a custom-made footwear could add to his many is the fact that it provides or gives back the freedom of someone who was stopped in his daily activities just because he could not go anywhere or walk, as he needed to go. That person's life often is changed for the better. We've had many patients who were stuck inside, not able to go out, not even able to walk, not able to hold a job, because the capacity of just moving from one place to another was not possible. Custom-made footwear may give that freedom back.
Awesome. Speaking of that, Helene, it brings to mind an amazing experience that I had a couple of years ago here in Winnipeg with a fellow that had not been out of his house, had not even hardly been off his chair. as very large fellow, but the lymphedema that he had was just massive. I had never witnessed anything like it. And when we went to him to do the molding and casting, we literally had to tape two foam boxes together to be able to accommodate the size of the foot. But we did it. We managed to get the mold and cast done. And I was just crossing my fingers when we went back for the delivery. And when I slipped those shoes on his feet and saw his smile on his face, and he got up and he walked across the room, I took a video. It was like life-changing. So it was so, so rewarding. And, for someone that was so housebound, to be able to be walking again, and it just was magnificent for me.
That's great.
So, Helen, how important is it to regularly update one's custom-made footwear, and what are the indicators or the signs that an individual needs to do that, or even for the practitioner to see that a new pair is required?
Well, I would say the first reason, Karen, would be the evolution of the pathology or the limitation of the patient. For example, if someone's got severe arthritis, there might be some deviation of the toes, that is modified through the years. Of course, there are some modifications that can made to the footwear or the orthotics within the footwear, but at one point, it gets to a point where it needs to be redo, or to be done again, should I say. Also, a custom-made footwear is a footwear in leather, outer sole. So over the years, even with regular use, it needs to be changed like any other pair of shoes. So the practitioner is the best person to look at the shoe, look at the evolution of the pathology, and recommend a new pair of custom-made footwear when it is needed.
Awesome. Thank you. So, Helen, based on your experience, what advice would you give someone just getting started to explore the custom options that are available to them?
Well, the first advice that I would tell that person is that you must be sure that all other options have been ruled out. Other options being getting an off-the-shelf shoe, modified, wearable, fittable, in which you're comfortable. Because when you evaluate the possibility of a custom-made footwear, there's a lengthy delay to wait for them. The look of the custom-made footwear is refined, modern, young looking if you wish it to be, but you must be aware that these are made with a certain part of craftsmanship. So craftsmanship means that it's something that when you look on a pair of shoe on a shelf, and you say, this is what I would like to be done in a custom-made footwear, it is possible. But your foot will determine the look, the final look of the shoe. So it is something that you need to address. Your expectation must be, or I would say your goals must be, I need a pair of footwear that would allow me to regain mobility, freedom, comfort, good fit, and stability. Then if all those elements are not possible with off-the-shelf footwear, then you must consider getting custom-made footwear. And when people are at that point and we deliver custom-made footwear to them, the only thing they say is, finally, thank you so much. So are you at the finally thank you so much stage?
Good question. So, Helen, we've been partnering now for quite some time with clinicians across Canada, being able to provide this solution for people right in the clinic environment without having to send them out away from their clinic. Maybe just let's speak to how beneficial is it for a clinician and a clinic to incorporate custom-made orthopedic footwear into their clinic as an offering to their patient. And is it complicated? Can it benefit the bottom line for the clinic? Maybe let's just speak to that for a minute.
All right. Well, a practitioner who's offering a custom-made footwear to their patient is a rare opportunity on the market. So as soon as the environment, I would say physicians, physiotherapists, chiropodists, orthotists, anyone in the surrounding of this individual gets to be aware that this is a product or services that is offered by the practitioner, suddenly there's an interest to sending someone for that custom-made footwear offering. It is when someone really needs a custom-made footwear, it is someone that cannot be serviced otherwise. You cannot go in any other stores, find a pair of shoes and put it in their feet off the shelf, and getting that same freedom and mobility that we spoke about. So it is a patient that's going to be grateful for the rest of his life. He's going to be coming back as soon as he needs an adjustment or a new pair of shoes. Most of these patients are helped financially by either their private insurance or some public organization, or even worker boards or public insurance programs throughout Canada. So there is a possibility for anyone who's really in needs of those custom-made footwear to be helped with the costs if need be. And basically, it's a recurring business. So as a practitioner, if you do it right, each year that starts, you know who to call to remind them that they should be having an appointment with you to see if the custom-made footwear needs to be renewed. And if so, once the footwear has been done for the first time, all you have to do is call in and ask for a new pair of shoes with the same pattern or a little bit of difference, but there's no need to remold, remeasure, or send in again the information that that you did the first time, because this is making another pair of almost the same. So it's a good business. As we often say, Karen, it's a business that is slower to build because it's one pair of shoe at a time, but that pair of shoe plus another one, plus another one, plus another one. After a few years, you'll be able to begin your year, say, all right, I'm beginning my year today with 10, 20, 30, 50 pair of shoes. And all I have to do is call in my clients and find out if they're ready for the new pair of shoes.
That's very, very true. Thank you so much. That makes so much sense. Helene, those are such good points for a clinician. Being able to provide such a valuable service. People are so grateful. I have people so happy when they've found a place that can actually do this footwear for them. You've then, like you said, you've got a customer for life. Basically, you're their lifeline to their mobility. And actually, I was thinking earlier that it's actually been 10 years that we've been working together. And over those 10 years, we have done our absolute best to try to make this as least complicated for any clinician wanting to embark on this journey with us. It's such a valuable service. It's so important for the end user. And we just want to make it as simple as possible with our clinician program. And we've had some amazing, amazing results. We have great first-time deliveries, which takes all of that back and forth business that used to happen years ago right out of the mix. And it makes it a very simple, not complicated system to provide that service through what we've created with our clinicians program. So I'm really proud of that. And I think we've seen the success of that over all across Canada, actually, in the last 10 years. So that's it's great to think about that. So Helene, tell me, for the clinicians that are listening, that maybe haven't had a whole lot of experience with the molding and casting process of custom-made footwear, how much different is it than molding and casting for, let's say, an orthotic that would be something that would be regularly done in a clinic?
Well, the orthotic is casting is really making a cast of the bottom of the foot and the immediate surrounding of the foot. A custom-made footwear, you need to realize that this is a 3D dimension casting that we need. So we need to have a cast of under the foot, each side and on top of the foot with the closed toe. So when you cast a custom-made footwear, you make a shoe in either plaster or with a scan or with an STS socks. But at the end, what you hold is in your hand is the foot in all its dimension. So, and that's where maybe the difference into the molding comes into play. But you know, Karen, a few years ago, we made tutorials available on the FNA Polio website of each step of molding, measuring, you know, with weight bearing, without weight bearing. And as you said in the beginning of this interview, I'm available across Canada to go train anyone who would, you know, ask for such a training to show how the custom-made footwear is made. And when we do so, we do it with a real client, because making an exercise of molding and measuring on you and I without limitation, it's not as real, as hands down, as it is when you have a true patients with limitation, with you know, tricks and way to make the mold a good mold. Because you know, Karen, you've been there many times. You've seen it done. You've seen how the molding and plastering and measurings is done. And these are the base of a good custom-made footwear. So you take your time. Once you're accustomed to do so, it takes at the most an hour, and everything is done, including your order form. And then all you have to do is sit down and wait for your shoe to be delivered to you.
Exactly. It actually is a lot simpler than most people realize. And
Mhm.
even the level of expertise in the orthopedic industry doesn't have to be that great. Once you learn the simple steps to the technique, um, basically even I can do it, but I'm not a certified podorthist or podiatrist. So, but you know, it's really a conceptual simple system that once you've done it once or twice, you know, it just lends itself to an easy process. And you're providing help for a lot of people. So it's definitely worth learning the concept, I would say, for most clinicians.
Absolutely.
So now that we've talked about the simplicity of, you know, molding and measuring once you're with the patient and you've got these measures and you've got the foam box and you've got, you know, your little STS sock or your scan, how difficult is it to actually order the custom-made footwear? And what does one need to know?
Well, Afana Puyo made it as simple as could be. First, you need to tell us what the patient uh, must avoid. For example, if you have a patient with a bunion, you do not want to stitch right at the bunion. So in your order form, you say patient's condition is ABCD. We do not want FGHI. And basically, the patient would like a custom-made foot that looks like the model K in your catalog, because we do have a catalog online.
Yeah.
Once that catalog choice is made and we receive the mold and the measurements, if we see that the model chosen needs to have some modification because of what you've told us, then we give you a call and say, listen, we noticed that you've chosen this model. Given the information that you gave us, this might be a problem, or may we suggest that you go with this within that model. And then we have that discussion, and then we go ahead with whatever was convened. So it's very simple, very, very simple. And basically, you can just send in also a picture of what your patients would like, and we'll do our utmost to come as close to it as possible.
Obviously, when you say we, you're talking about your team, and we happen to have three orthotists on staff, a master craftsman, and of course, a lot of other craftsmen that work with the equipment and on by hand. So that process, you know, is really conceptualized when that you've received everything you need to receive. So the clinician themselves, can just really communicate well what they're looking for, and we can create it, which I think
Absolutely.
is a great partnership and a much simpler system for a lot of people. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Helene, if there was one thing that you wish more people understood about custom-made orthopedic footwear, what would it be?
Well, people must understand that making a custom-made footwear takes time and experience. So you cannot expect to have your custom-made footwear the next week after you order it. But if you take the time to wait for it, and if the mold and measurement that was taken were good, you will receive your custom-made footwear by an experienced team of craftsmanship that will provide a whole new life for you.
Absolutely. And that time frame that you're talking and referring to, that's around an 8-week turnaround time, are we talking?
Approximately,
Right.
approximately. From
So
the
it,
time that we receive everything that we need to proceed, 8 weeks on average is a pretty good time lapse.
yes, excellent. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.